Welcome to Virginia's Views and Vibes. I'm your host, Ginny Gardner. This afternoon, I say benvenuto to my co-host for K-Fi, Dr. Dominic Amara. Benvenuto, K-Fi. Dr. Amara, how are you?
Buongiorno, buongiorno, che fai?
K-Fi, good, not much. We have our guest today, actually, is former commander of the Sons of the American Legion, Nick Pasquarosa. And we're going to have him talk a little bit about what goes on behind the scenes of this very successful veterans help group. So welcome, Nick. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me, Ginny. And Dom, how are you?
So far, so good. It depends how long Ginny is at this.
How are you, huh?
Everyone knows Italian. We're all Italian. So, Nick, you're former commander. You were commander for how many years?
3.
Okay. And you did some exciting projects, and I was able to join you in a few, but I want you to talk about the most impressive for me, and that was Veterans for the Vietnam Dinner.
Yeah, that was, as you know, I grew up in the Vietnam era, was drafted twice, but never accepted. And when I started losing friends, and when I heard how the people were treated when they came home, and trying to converse with those Vietnam veterans, they didn't want to talk about it. They were treated so badly. People wouldn't give them taxi rides out of the airport. They were spat on at the airport. And it really bothered me. And so I made a recommendation that why don't we have a thank you dinner for the Vietnam veterans that we could locate? And it was kind of a risky thing because of the fact that they did not want to talk about it or be part of it. In fact, they're remembered for it, even though they served. So the group gave me a go-ahead with a provisional green light. And I ended up visiting, I don't know how many organizations throughout the metropolitan Massachusetts area of veterans, telling them that we, the Sons of the American Legion, would like to finally give them a professional thank you for their service to their country. And we're going to have a free dinner for them, along with their spouse or guest. And what was interesting is I was well received in almost every organization as I went through my 10 or 15-minute spiel. But still lingering was the fact that they did not really want to participate. So when the evening came, I was at the door and I had 4 people at the door. And I was shocked that on my way to post 440, I kept getting phone calls from people who changed their mind. Oh, is it not too late? Can I come? I said, "You're a Vietnam veteran?" Yes, well, you are welcome. And they just kept coming. And I finally said to my wife, Sally, I said, I don't know if we have enough food now. They just keep coming in droves. And what was nice about the program was we had, I had everybody that had signed up send me a picture of them in the day. Yeah. And I said, oh, I don't want to do that. I was like, yeah, look, you're going to look 40 pounds lighter. You're going to be handsome now, and we're going to put you up on the screen. And we did. We had a slideshow, and it was a run through, and it kept showing the different people, and they loved it. And we had a number of things that happened that night that were really good. One was a spotlight on the missing man table, for which Ginny and George Gardner provided, and explained how those things represented different points of view with respect to the Vietnam War, the missing man table, the rose, the whole 9 yards. And I think one of the highlights of the night was we made Vietnam coins. And what we did was we roll called each and every individual that showed. And we had, I think, 10 Sons members around the room with a bundle of coins. When they called a member, we called them by their name, United States Army. They would stand up, and our nearest SAL member would go over. hand them the coin with the left hand, step back and salute them. And it was awesome. That was so successful that to this day, now that was 2017. To this day, we're still giving out Vietnam coins. We keep ordering them.
Yeah.
We run into a Vietnam member, and sometimes they look at me funny. I see a guy with a hat on. I said, "Excuse me, sir, did you serve in Vietnam?" He says, "Yeah." So I introduce myself, and I tell them what we did, and I tell them, we still want to honor you people because you've never been thanked. So if you give me your name and address and your branch of service, I'm going to send you something. And here's an interesting story. My brother Rappy lives in Florida. Go down every year. He took me to a bar, naturally.
No way.
And in the bar, he wanted to introduce me to some of his friends. And I noticed that some of them were veterans and they had served in Vietnam, 3 of them. So I took their names down and all that. When I get back home, I sent them to their homes with a letter, a nice letter, along with the coins. And I had forgotten about it. And the following year, I went down. We went to the same bar, and the same guys were there, and they came up and they thanked me profusely. It said it meant so much to him and their families. The families were really shook. And in Newton, in the Newton, Waltham, Needham area, if we find a Vietnam veteran, we'll make a personal presentation. The officers will go there in our formal dress. We'll read the letter, present the coin, and the families are usually there. There's a lot of tears, believe me, because no one ever thanked them.
Nick, last spring, where did we go to? I want to say Sherburne or something out there where the American Legion Auxiliary ladies, you invite us, and we all decided to go with you that night. Where was that? Do you remember? No.
I do not remember.
But
was it to present a coin?
yes, he was a Vietnam vet. But I guess my point to this is, it is an amazingly moving ceremony, and the American Legion Auxiliary participates in it now. As I said, you invited us to join, and it is so moving. And there were tears, absolutely.
Yeah.
People were crying, and the recipient of this coin, which I want you to describe in a minute, he said he had never been thanked, and his family,
Right.
as you said, there were tears. People were crying, and it was such an amazing ceremony. And this wasn't, we've been to a few, and the work that you do for Vietnam veterans and all veterans is amazing. But I want you to describe the coin a little bit.
Can I ask a question? I have a question. Was this something that
Nick, Dr. Amara wants to ask a question. Go ahead, doctor.
Nick are you the one that kind of developed this particular ceremony?
Did you develop it, Nick?
Say that again. It broke up a little bit.
Did you develop
I'm
the
sorry.
ceremony?
You're the one that developed the ceremony? Wow, so you're the first to develop this. Have there other organizations that have picked up on this?
No, but I will say the people that came from surrounding areas thought it was great and wanted to continue it. It was a mammoth project, though, as you can imagine. And we wanted it to be a one-time deal for the purpose of its iconic significance. It was a big deal, and people talk about it today. And I didn't want it to really water down. Or did I know that we could repeat it, in the same venue that we did?
It just seems to me that something as to bring back the memory of a lot of individuals that served in such a way is something that should be shown actually throughout the country. And it's certainly a subject I think that others should pick up on. If I were still doing some of the things I've done in the past, I would definitely make a video, or at least write about the ceremony in depth and pass it along, because it's something that needs to be for the next generations. I'm concerned that sometimes we do things and forget forget the next generation. We tend to think of this generation, the people that are affected, but it really, we really should spend some time thinking of how do we pass these kinds of ceremonies and ideas and histories on to the next generation, because it's really something that we're losing. A history of America is being lost. And I think what you've done is something for the history books. I really do.
Well, we were recognized nationally by the Sons of the American Legion nationally. They wrote us up in the magazine, and we were declared as one of the finest Sons of the American Legion organizations in existence in America. Now, having said that, one of the other things we did do, Dom, is we reminded the people in that room that night that the opinion of the military today, for all who have served, has changed demonstrably to the favor. People do not any longer think badly of the Vietnam soldiers. At the time, I think those people felt that the politicians let them down, and the only place they could take it out was on the soldiers. But the soldiers are very well regarded. We made it known clear. And we do some other things also for soldiers, and Ginny's been part of this, the gift party. We raise, we have an event, a fun event, where the attendance to get in is a $25 gift card to one of the many stores we outlined. And on Christmas morning, we go over to the Court Street, the home for the New England shelter veterans, and we present every one of them with a gift card, and they love it. So we're doing a real
just as a because it's a question that maybe something that people just never ask, but where do you get your funding for this? I mean, you're saying you're giving out all of these things. Where are you getting your funding for this?
It's really interesting because the funding, we don't rent rooms. We're a subsidiary of the American Legion, as the auxiliary is. And we run different events where we charge, like we have a thing we call Saturday Night Live, where we make the lounge open to outsiders for a donation. We can't charge admission for a donation of $10. Then we have a 50-50 raffle. And we have Haunted Village is one of our big benefactors. They give us enough money. And to be honest with you, when we do our flag drive, Tom, if you drove up and down the Mass Pike on Memorial or Veterans Day, the bridges are lined with American flags that we put up. And after a couple of years, they get, kind of worn. And we have a donate a flag drive. And it's amazing the donations that come in far and exceeds the cost of the flags. So there's different things that we do to keep it going. We do keep us, in fact, the other thing we do is when we hear of a hardship, and we've had many of them, we'll donate money to those hardships as well. So we don't have any stream of revenue, but we do have revenue that does come in, almost all from donations that people appreciate what we do. We're very visible in the city of New.
Nick, I just want to stop right there, guys, for 1 minute, because I'm just going to add to that. A lot of what we do, we don't get necessary money, but places such as Cabot's Ice Cream, what was the Blue Ribbon in Washington Street was another one. Sometimes the Chateau in Waltham. Nick, you probably are more familiar with all the vendors that came out for our police appreciation. Maybe you could go into that a little bit more, elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, Tom, when we had
police appreciation.
When we had the killing in Ferguson, Missouri, if you remember correctly, every police person was a bad person, no more supporting police. So we started Wear Blue Day. Yeah. And we were on radio with it. And we hit about, I think, 15 or 20 states through the internet of people supporting us. And what we did is we made a presentation to the Newton Police Department, thanking them for their service, but it represented a thank you for all law enforcement officials all over the country. It was symbolic. Since that time, we've institutionalized Police Appreciation Day every January 9th, and we have a dinner, and we have the police honor, elect their policeman of the year, a peer group selection, not a management selection. And then we pick from a group that submit applications, that person who we think did the most for the community aside from their work with the police department. That's been institutionalized, and we have, I think, 9 vendors that are glad to come and provide free food during the ceremony, and the police chief is there. We make out the awards, and we've been doing that now since 2017.
Well, Nick, you know what it brings to mind that there are a lot of corporate donors that seem to be giving money to causes which frankly are not anywhere near as focused on American and American history and the values of America. And I wonder if, and there are corporations out there that do. It seems that particularly in organizations such as yours might reach out if you haven't already. So just curious, has anyone approached you in these major corporations to help you with this? Because the cause seems like it's a no-brainer. I mean, why wouldn't anyone support you? And it seems like it's something they would want to do, because I guess the whole tenor of like you say, the military has gone from what it was back in just after the Vietnam War. So I would think that if you haven't done it already, that might be something that you may want to think about. Again, just a thought.
Well, it's a good thought. We have applied for a few grants. Of course, the government really wraps you up. And I don't know that the government is really behind veterans in the military, as you can imagine. But we have put in for a few grants, mainly to try to get an elevator put in for the disabled that come into the American Legion Hall, and we couldn't get it. Joe Kennedy dropped the ball. I gave him all the information, and he didn't do anything with it, with all that money in Washington. And we only wanted like $50,000 or something to put an elevator in. But we're okay. We're watching ourselves very carefully. We're all volunteers. We've got 140 members. By the way, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that one of the great things we did in terms of making us look more effective, efficient, and powerful is we have united with the American Legion Post 440 and the American Legion Auxiliary, of which Ginny is a prime member. And everything we do now is on behalf of the American Legion, even though sometimes we take the ball forward, but we make it a Legion event. And the women have been unbelievable in their support of all of our events. And all of our events have improved very impressively because of their involvement with us.
Thank you, Nick. But I want to just back up for a minute, because I do want to acknowledge some of our big donors have been Honda Village, for one. Carl Pasquarosa always comes through with a Honda Village for us, and the Village Bank, and Patty's, and again Cabot's, because in actual fact, without them, they support us. It brings their name in, and we work well with them, and we're lucky. We do have some very good supporters, and I'm glad you mentioned the American Legion Auxiliary, because we try and help out too. And Nick, one of the things in this again speaks volumes for your character. As you know, we drag you into, Sandy Young and I sort of drag you into what we like to do in the community. And one of those times it was the War on Terror Monument. Do you want to talk a little bit?
Yeah.
Our Sunday morning yelling back and forth session sometimes. But if you want to talk a little bit about the War on Terror Monument, that was a huge success for the American Legion Auxiliary, and absolutely the Sons of the American Legion. It was a proud moment for all of us. So I want you to talk about that a little bit.
Okay, a little bit means don't make it a long story. I
No,
got you.
no. You can actually, you can talk about that a lot.
So Dawn, the sisters, that being Sandy and Ginny, came to me and said, we ought to do something for the people that we lost through terror, terror efforts. And we started talking about it, and I thought it was a good idea because every Memorial Day, we celebrate almost every war at Post 440 with speeches and stones and everything. So we got together, we talked about it, we brought in people from the city, we agreed on the wording of the stone, got the stone donated, but we never heard back from the city before we could put it in, only to find out that the mayor didn't think it was a good idea to put a stone that says War on Terror with the stones that are down on Washington Street in Newton, where World War II, Korea, Vietnam, all those stones are. And the question was, why don't you want it there? Well, it might be offensive to some people, to which I responded when I was talking with her personally, oh, you mean the people that don't care about the military and don't show up for the ceremony anyway? Those people might be offended. They won't even know it's there. To make a long story short, we went to Post 440 and said, do you have room for one more stone? And this is what it is. And they thought it was a great idea. So, and every year we have Ginny and Sandy make a little speech because it's kind of their idea to put it together. So among all the guys making speeches for the different wars and the different heroes, those two ladies make a speech on the War on Terror. Let's not forget them.
And Nick, I thank you, but without you, and we always say this, it's the three of us, and without you, you do provide us with the encouragement and support, and we value that. We value you. But so we do that every year. And again, it was the three of us. It wasn't just one. It was the three of us, and it was such an honor every year to be asked to lay the wreath on that. And you let me play chaplain, and you let us do it, and that's so kind. So thank you again. But I want to just tell the story about Kevin McNamara. He's 74 years old now. Is that correct, Nick? About that?
Yeah.
Went to Vietnam, and highly successful businessman in Newton. Great family, beautiful family, dedicated veteran. And just to show you how it never leaves them in many ways, I asked him if he happened to see, or if he was going to see the Tom Brady movie. And his words to me were, I would never go to that theater and see that woman. And I knew immediately who he was talking about,
yeah.
Jane Fonda, because and he looked me right in the eye, and Kevin, Nick, he's a very soft-spoken gentleman, and he said, I will never forget where I was when she went and sat on a tank and spoke to our enemy. And I was very taken back by it. And this is how many years later, and how old is he? And again, all that you put together for us to participate in for the veterans, it's great work you do. I absolutely am honored to be part of it. And we do fun things. I mean, we do a lot of fun things, and I don't want to talk about the Lalas and how talented they are, but we've been asked now to sing backup again at an upcoming event at the Members Lounge. I'm sure you've heard how wonderful.
You are going to, you're not going to sing, are you?
We've been asked. Dr. Amaro was at Kevin Mack's.
I was a witness. I was a witness, and
he said to me, "Keep your day job," basically. But so we've been asked to sing because we're so talented. So that's going to be in the Members Lounge. But Kevin, another very talented. I have one more Vietnam story for Kevin, and this is kind of funny. Nick, as you know, and Dr. Amara, I probably told you this as well. Kevin McNamara's brother was Robin McNamara, the late Robin McNamara. He was in the stage play Hair, and he made one big hit record and other records. And when Kevin was in Vietnam, he tells the story, he was sitting on a tank, having a cigarette, listening to, what was it, Pat Sajak, I think, was radio, the military radio. And in plays the song, Lay a Little Lovin' on Me. And Kevin knew right away it was his brother. And
Unbelievable.
at the end of the song, Pat Sajak said, and there you go, what a beautiful voice she has, Robin McNamara. And what had happened was they made the record go faster, so Robin sounded very much, if you Google the song, one of my favorite songs, but you can hear it, and he does sound a little female. But Kevin got on the walkie-talkie, the phone, whatever it was, called Pat Sajak and said, listen, that was my brother, Robin McNamara, and he's a male. But I think every time I hear that song, I think of both of them. And it's one of those Kevin Mack stories that are just so priceless and so Kevin. But let's go back to the things you do.
Let me interrupt you as long as you're on Kevin McNamara for Dawn's edification. One of the things we did was we started a program called All America Day.
Right.
And we go into the high schools. We go into the high schools, which we bring 3 or 4 veterans in uniform. And we do that prior to Memorial Day to talk about what Memorial Day means beyond the hamburgers, hot dogs, and parades, what it means to the guys that actually served. And Kevin has been a prime speaker at that. Now, interestingly enough, as you know, Newton is very ultra-liberal. We ran into some problem where they weren't sure that they really wanted to do it anymore, but it is being resurrected now, even though we have some issues with the politics involved. But we're bringing veterans into the schools, North and South high schools, to have them talk about what Veterans Day means to them. And Kevin is one of our prime speakers.
Yeah. And your brother Paul actually helps too with the the missing man table, because what he does is we set up the missing man table, which is the and Kevin comes in, I mean, your brother comes in with pictures of all the veterans that were lost and the names of all the veterans that were lost in Vietnam, killed in action, or never made it home. But Dom, go ahead, you were going to say something.
I didn't think I was ever going to get a word in edgewise.
Well, Nick and I, between both of us.
Nick, if you
Come on. Yeah.
Nick, you can appreciate this, right? I mean, if there was well, I'll just leave that alone.
Dom, let's ask you a question.
She's probably used up every bit of oxygen in that room. Nick,
Dom.
I am Nick. I don't know if you know, but they say Nick. We've had this project. Virginia and I have this project we've been involved with, the Pirandello Lyceum and the Italian American Alliance, with Lieutenant Father Vincent Capodanno, who was a Vietnam vet, and who was he was killed in actually over the line of duty, and he was given the Medal of Honor. So we're trying to get a commemorative stamp done in his honor. Now that's a long, involved process. But, you've probably heard about it, and I'd like to get your views on it.
Well, I think it's great. I mean, that would be a first. That would be a first. And I think it would be good. I think it would be good with respect to how other people who feel like they've been forgotten are now, memorialized in that stamp through this hero. And I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, it's a long process. I think it is. The process is probably 2 years and longer, but we're focusing on this as because he's a war hero, and he's a patriot, and he's Italo-American, and given everything that's being done today in terms of marginalizing Italian Americans, we're thinking that this is something that Italians can rally around. So we're pushing this, and the fact that he's a Vietnam War hero, he died in 1969, I believe, and he has many awards and many commendations. But I think that this is something that, and most of those recognitions are in the New York area where he's from.
Yeah.
But this would be something that was national. And I think it's the kind of thing that we need.
Dom, the Post 440, the Sons of the American Legion and the American Legion Auxiliary have signed on to support this, just by way of voting that they've signed on. And Nick, you're a member of the Italian American Alliance, and I know that if I asked you, you'd be willing to work with us on this to help spread the word and do what you can do. So I'm sure you would, right, Nick?
By the way, your commanding order, Ms. Scott.
Okay.
You have opened up a bear. Oh, good luck.
Tom, I can never say no to her.
You can't. You absolutely cannot. Listen,
And the feeling is mutual, Nick. And Dom, I do what I'm told to, right, Nick?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. But so we're not out of time yet. So I'm gonna let you keep talking, Nick. Talk about, let's see, I have a whole list. The police appreciation, you do a lot with the police and the Memorial Day and things like that. But you've also, aside from that, your career was Polaroid, and you were very instrumental when Polaroid, the pension, you were the liaison, were you not?
No, I wasn't. I was in Polaroid for many years, and I was fortunate that they had an in-house advocacy on behalf of the employees, and they were elected. And one day I didn't think the fellow that was representing our area was doing the job, so I ran and I won. Then they expanded the job to be bigger. I ran at that and won. I eventually became the chairman of what's called the Employees Committee that was founded by Dr. Land. Everyone knows Dr. Land. He founded Instant Photography back in 1946. And he started that organization. And the reason he started it was because he was in fear that returning servicemen would not get their jobs back. So he wanted a mechanism within the company to make sure that they did get their job back. But that thing just grew and grew. And I eventually served as chairman for 3 terms, the longest consecutive terms. And I just did, and I wasn't even burnt out, but we did a lot, but I felt it was, I didn't want to stay there forever. Yeah. And so I left after 3 terms, but we did a lot of things there. We helped out blacks, we helped out women. We imagine this, I get paid to go to work and antagonize management. No liability. We got so good at it that some of the salaried people come into us for representation. So, but you know what? Going back to what we do that Dom may appreciate. In fact, I think Dom, you would really appreciate. I thought it was unrealistic that we didn't retire flags of honor in the city. So we started a project. We had to go to City Hall, health permit, this permit, fight the powers to be at 440, shut down the parking lot. But we did. Yeah. We had people bring flags down on 1 week before, no earlier, and we burned them in 2 barrels ceremoniously. Now, this last year, we did something entirely new that went over hugely. And that is when people went into the hall for the city's celebration of Veterans Day on November 11th. We had them sign up and ask them if they wanted to retire a flag in honor of the veteran.
Yeah.
And that went over. Remember, Jenny?
I
That went
do
over.
remember. Yeah, I do. I did one for my
Really big.
dad. Yeah.
There were tears there as well, because we mentioned who the presenter was and who was in honor of.
Yeah.
And they walked over to our fire marshal and they made the deposit into the fire to burn it with honor. That was another
Yeah.
thing that we've done that it's kind of creative.
It was, again, I have to jump in because the way that you did that, I was able to hear my father's name. You
Yeah.
know, and it is very moving to know that he served our country. And I go back to this, a kid that was first generation Italian, depression, had nothing, and he served his country. And it was, you know, I still have the flag they put over his casket, but I digress. But, you know, it was just nice to hear his name. And it's, again, the way that you plan things, Nick, is so beautifully done. It really is. And I want to just point out one more thing. The summer cookout, the Charles River, the summer cookout,
Oh, yeah.
that was a blast. And,
Yeah.
and it was for homeless veterans, but that was a blast. And I had a ball because, you know, when I get bored, trouble starts. But that was so much fun. That was so much fun. We did some singing.
Yes,
We did a boat ride.
Yeah.
I played.
And we had 58 homeless veterans that
Yep.
we gave a tour of the river to.
That's right. We played
And,
football in the boat.
And then I told 3 jokes.
That's right. And then we played football in the boat with the snacks.
That's right.
That was
Bingo.
fun.
And bingo.
Bingo. It was great. It was great. And Nick, again, they had hot dogs, hamburgers, sausage and peppers. That's right. It was
Yeah.
great. And that was all free to the veterans. And I was really lucky that we got to participate in that. That was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
I'm happy that you participated.
Yeah, thanks. It was fun. That was the beginning of the Lalas. But you do so
That was the
much.
beginning. Oh my God.
So I
What a
thank
good
you. I thank you. And the world thanks you, Nick.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
But before we end, I want Dr. Amara, we've got some time. I want you to just quickly again, I'll try and find that website for where you can get on and sign the petition. It's ipetition.com/petition/A/stamp in honor of Lieutenant Father Capitano. If you can't remember that, do 2 things. Go on my Virginia's Views and Vibes Facebook page, or you can email us for this petition site at gravyorsauce26@gmail.com. Dr. Amara?
Sounds good to me. That's easy to remember than that hashtag.
We now have a guru promotion. Why don't you give that information to Beth and have her send it out to the 3 organizations?
Oh, that would be great. Okay, that would be fabulous. I'll send that to Beth and she can do that. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you very much. Nick.
We were
Thank
going to
you
have
for
a
your
segment.
service, Nick.
Yeah, we were going to have a segment. Which food do you like? Your favorite food? But I want to do it quick because Nick, I'd love to hear what you do. What your Italian specialty is?
Veal cutlet palm.
Do you make it?
Oh, the only thing I do is hot dogs and hamburgers on the grill.
Okay, that's all right.
Otherwise, my lovely wife gets me chubby. She
Well,
makes a great eggplant, by the way.
she makes a great eggplant. We could use her in the summer. We're
Yeah.
planning something, Nick, and you know, I love when you say yes to me. So you're in.
Nick,
And
she's
Dr.
planning an Italian-American version of that with hot
Yeah.
dogs and vinegar peppers instead of the sausages and vinegar peppers.
Yeah,
So it's Italian-American.
it's
So
an
it's got
Italian.
hot dogs,
Vinegar peppers.
Italian-American, vinegar peppers and hot dogs on a
Is that
bun.
your favorite, Tom?
What?
Is that your favorite?
No, that's yours.
Actually, no,
I just didn't know it.
I just didn't know. We both like. I think John likes artichokes. I make artichokes, and do you make them, Dr. Amara?
Oh, I love artichokes, and they're very good for you. Actually, that's probably they're one of the best health foods you can have.
Yep. And you make one, and you send pictures, and I torment you with my pictures of artichokes. And yeah,
Nick, do you make stuffed, do you make, my grandmother used to make the stuffed ones, stuffed with parsley and cheese
yes,
and some of them were roasted. She would do that sometimes, and she would roast the artichoke on the grill, and others were boiled. That's how you generally, or put it in the oven. But those were the way, very simple garlic, breadcrumbs, parsley, and a little bit of cheese, Romano cheese, because that's the more the savory of the group. So, or you can just plain boil them. The other is just plain boil them, and just when you have a dip, just make a dip out of olive oil, oregano, and vinegar, and have them that way. Just you cut each leaf off, and just cut away. Just cut away. I'll tell you a funny joke about artichokes.
uh-oh.
This is clean. I was a very young man. I was a teenager, and I was working on Blackstone Street in the North End. I was working with my uncle, and off of a pushcart, and and we were selling artichokes. And this week, a fellow came and wanted half a dozen artichokes. And of course, he got his artichokes and went away. The next week, he came back with the bag of artichokes and threw them at my uncle. Literally not threw at him directly, but threw them on the pushcart, and said they were too tough. What he had not thought of is he put them in a salad without cooking them.
Oh gosh.
That was of course, I always remember that because it's a cultural thing. You know, you have to learn how to do things as a culture. And this is what, again, I'm always sensitive about the loss of heritage and the lessons that come. And this is something that you pass down to your kids and people you talk to. So, as you know, I'm very big on passing what we know down to not only our own kids, but to the kids of other groups. So but the artichoke story is I always remember that. That's a personal.
You made me hungry, Don.
I know, now I want to make artichokes. But before we end, I promise if we are going to have, it's an Italian American, it's actually a New England style barbecue, and we're going to have it in July. Everyone's invited, and it's going to have with a twist of Italian. And I promise I will make my Sicilian, my favorite food, passed down from my grandmother through my mother, myself, my daughter now. I'll make that for you and Nick, and we will celebrate a New England style 4th of July barbecue. And with that, I say thank you very much to Dr. Amara. Thank you, K5. And Nick Pasquarosa. Nick, thank you so much. I enjoyed your stories, and we are so grateful for everything you do. So thank you. Join us again next time. Same time, same.
Thank you, Tom. Good luck.
Thank you, Nick. You too.
All right.